For activity 5.2, you're going to have to use reference Inventor files that I've provided for you, parts 1, 2, and 3 in Canvas, to open them up and add additional features using circles and arcs in Inventor in order to complete the features. And the activity sheet here shows you each of these parts on a sheet of grid paper, and in this case isometric paper. Each grid space on the ISO paper is equal to 0.5 inches. So you'll need to use that information in order to figure out where you're going to place all your features. So on part number 1, you'll have to place this circle cutout. On part number 2, you'll have to place both these circle cutouts, which are through holes. And then on part number 3, you'll have to place these arc cutouts on either side of the part. The first thing that you're going to need to do is create a folder in your IED folder. So if we pull up our menu here, we can go to our IED folder, which I have over in my favorites, or the quick access bar. And I'm going to click on IED, and you can see that I already have one here, which is 5.2 Inventor Arcs and Circles. So if you don't have one of those there, which you shouldn't, right click, go to New and Folder, and then create one called 5.2 Inventor Arcs and Circles. I'm not going to create another one. I'm just going to go ahead and delete that extra folder there so I don't have an extra one. So you should have a 5.2 Inventor Arcs and Circles. Once you have that folder, you can go ahead and close that window, and then you need to go ahead and download each of the part files provided in Canvas. So if you just left click on those, on each of those, you should be able to download each one. They're fairly small files, so they should download pretty quickly. And then once they're in, this is in Chrome, and once they're in once they're downloaded rather, you can click on this arrow to the right, and there's an option that says Show in Folder. So if you do that, they should have gone to your Downloads folder, and you should be able to see all 3 of them loaded here in your Downloads folder. So if you select the first one, which is part 1, and then hold the Shift key to select all 3, we want to right click on those, and we want to select the Cut option. And what that's going to do is Cut's going to remove them from here once we paste them somewhere else. So then I'm going to scroll up to the top here, double click on my IED folder, double click in 5.2, and then I'm going to right click and paste. Now I already have mine here, so I'm not going to go ahead and paste those again, but once you paste them there, you should have these 3 files in your IED folder. And once you have that, go ahead and double click on those, and you can click on part 1 to pull part 1 up. So the first thing you'll notice is that I have given you the part without the circle cutout here. So on number 1 is the circle cutout. The only thing you need to place is that circle. So you need to look at your isometric paper here and kind of figure out where the center point of your circle is. And if you look at it, right here is the center point of my circle. So it has a radius of 1 inch, or 2 grid spaces, and a diameter of 2 inches. And then what you'll also need to pay attention to is where that center point is placed. So how far it is from this edge, which in this case it's 2 inches, and how far it is from this top edge here, which in this case is 3 grid spaces, or 1.5 inches. So I need to place a circle that is 2 inches in diameter, 1.5 inches down from the top, and 2 inches in from the left. So if I go back to my Inventor drawing, I'm going to go ahead and start a new 2D sketch on this front face. And I'm going to grab a circle, and for right now I'm just going to place this circle approximately where it should go, and I'm just going to click, and I'm going to tell it the diameter is going to be 2 inches. And then I'm going to right click and OK. And now I want to place this part, so I'm going to use my dimensioning tool, and I know that from this top edge to the center point of the circle, I need that to be 1.5 inches. And I'm going to use another dimension from this left edge to the center of that circle, and I know I need that to be 2 inches. And then I'm going to hit Finish Sketch. And then once I do that, I'm going to grab my Extrude command, select that feature, and instead of extruding it out, I want to select the Cut option, which is the center option here. And I could go ahead and put in the actual distance. A quicker way is to select my drop down under Extents in my Extrude menu and use All. And what that'll do is send that hole all the way through to the back of your part. and then hit OK. And once you have that done, go ahead and save that part to your folder, and then you can move on to part 2. So I'll go ahead and minimize this, and I'm going to go back to my file folder here, and I'm going to double click on part 2 and bring that up. I'm not going to go through this one with you, but if you take a look at the PDF I provided you, you have 2 holes here, and you'll need to use the grid spacing to place those holes correctly. And once again, those are through holes, so they will go all the way through the part. So I'm going to go ahead and go to part number 3 and get it opened. And then we need to place the arcs on the side of these to go ahead and cut out those empty areas that are included here in the PDF. Now there's a couple ways you can do this. You can cut out each of them individually, but since they are both this part is symmetrical, what we can do is go back over to Inventor, and I can create a 2D sketch on this right hand face. And if I create that arc and cut all the way through, I can cut both sides at the same time. So I'm going to go back to my PDF, and I know that this arc starts 1/2 inch in from the top, and that also is 1 inch 2 grid spaces in from this bottom left corner. So I'm going to go back over to Inventor, and I am going to place 2 lines on this drawing to give me points to create my arc. So I'm going to use this line. I know that it's going to be 0.5 inches in from this top left corner, so I'm going to type 0.5, create 1 line there, right click and hit OK. And then I'm going to create another line from this bottom left corner, and I know that that is 1 inch in the vertical direction, and I'll hit OK and right click and hit OK. And now I've created 2 points, the top of this line and the left hand side of this line, that I can then create an arc between these 2 points. Now if I go back to my PDF and take a look at this arc, I'm going to try to find the center point of this arc so I can figure out what the radius is. Anytime you're creating an arc, you're going to need the radius. Anytime you create a circle, you're going to need the diameter of the circle. So if I start at this point and kind of work my way up here until I find the center point of this arc, I notice this point right here is actually the center point of my arc. And then if I count grid spaces over, I have 2 there, 2 there, so that is a radius of 2 inches. So I'll jump back over to my Inventor drawing. I'm going to grab the arc tool. Now if you hit the drop down here, you have several different options. You have a 3-point, a tangent, and a center point. We're going to mostly use the 3-point, and I'd say at least 90% of the time you'll use the 3-point, especially in the rest of our assignments. So I'll grab the 3-point, and what I want to do is select my first point, which is going to be the left-hand side of this line, my second point, which is going to be the top-hand side of this line, and then I want to define a radius. And as I pointed out in the drawing, our radius is about 2 inches. And you can kind of manually drag this, and then if you'll notice, once you get to 2 inches, that puts the end of that dashed line right at the corner of our part. But instead of eyeballing it, we're just going to go ahead and type 2 and hit enter. And then what I also need to do is I need a closed shape in order to extrude and cut. So right now I just have an arc and 2 lines. I need to enclose this top left-hand corner of this, including my arc, in order to cut this. So I'm going to grab my line command. I'm going to start a line here all the way to the corner, and then extend that back to this point and right click OK, and then I can click Finish Sketch. And once I've done that, I can go and grab my extrude command, select that shape we created, and instead of extruding, I'm going to select the cut command. And once again, I could type in a dimension, and I'm just cutting this one side, but if I go to the Extents drop down and select all, it'll take that cut all the way from one side to the other, and I can click OK. Once again, once you have this done, this part is complete. Go ahead to the iPro button and click Save to save over that in your folder, and then you'll need to check with your instructor to make sure everything looks correct. If the instructor thinks everything looks correct, they'll go ahead and initial off on your activity sheet. You shall have initial for parts 1, 2, and 3. Once you have those parts initialed, you'll need to scan and upload that document to the Canvas assignment. And once you have that document scanned and uploaded, this assignment is complete.